what is going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back for another OPTC video, and in today's video, Rumble is the thing. Rumble's been so much fun lately with the release of Kaido, thinking of ways to sort of take him out as well as utilizing his team. It's just been a nice breath of fresh air for Rumble as it has been so stale with the slasher meta for so long. But in today's video, we are over here on the global side of the game, and we are looking at taking down the beast, the king, the man himself, Kaido. So, with the release of Kaido, he has just dominated PvP. All the times I've versed him, all the times I've used him, he has just done so much, and he's been such a threat on the PvP battlefield. But in today's video, I do have a particular team that I have actually been using to take down that PvP team that I did showcase in my Kaido is King video, which I'll leave a little bit of a card here for you guys, so you guys can sort of check that video out if you want. If you do have Kaido, you are looking for some team builds, what characters work really, really well. But this particular team that you do see on screen has been working phenomenally at taking down the beast himself. Now, there is a second variation to this team, well, a couple of different variations to him, actually, but the main two characters that you do want to have on this particular team is Corazon and Wano Law. These two characters particularly actually are really, really good at nerfing driven and quick units, which, funny enough, Kaido is. And once we start moving into the quick, driven powerhouse meta, these characters are only going to get better and better when it comes to sort of taking down this particular team. Now, what I really like about Rumble is there is no real one team beats everything. RNG is still prevalent in Rumble, so make sure, please remember that RNG is still prevalent, as well as characters not having max stats, and actually trying to find max teams to showcase against can be a little bit tricky unless you sort of have the utensils to be in the top 100 and whatnot. But I digress. With today's video, we do have a bunch of matches, mainly taking on that particular driven team. So the team basically consists of Roger. Roger's a really, really good unit on basically any team. He doesn't have to be on a Free Spirit team, he doesn't have to be on a Slash team, he doesn't even really have to be fully boosted. His Rumble ability gives defense up level 3 to your entire team. And for the first 60 seconds of battle, he actually gives, he gives level 5 attack and level 5 speed to your entire team. And when there's 40 seconds left, he gives special cooldown, which is really, really strong for this team, as most of the time that these fights go the distance. His special, as you guys know, does a lot of damage, 2000 fixed damage to all enemies, and he does a lot of debuffing. Attack down level 7, defense down level 5, speed down level 10, which is really, really, really good. As mentioned, Corazon is an absolute weapon at taking down Kaido. He's special targets teammates within a medium range for 2.75 times recovery, healing, and does level 7 defense up to a small range. Now, this defense up always includes himself, and normally Corazon hangs at the back because his behavior pattern is healing, attacking, and then healing. So he's normally hanging around characters because he has to heal. So as you can see, he can give quite a lot of defense up, which is really, really good. His Rumble ability, if the HP is above 70%, he gives attack up level 10 to your entire crew. And then for the first 40 seconds of battle, he's actually going to give CT speed down and speed down level 5 to quick enemies. So Kaido is sort of designed around the quick meta. So Corazon is just going to be an absolute gun at taking down Kaido teams, especially the mono quick team that has been floating around. We have Shanks Crew on this particular team. Shanks Crew is really, really good. He can do a HP cut, 21% damage reduction, and give level 4 defense up, which is great on a 24-second cooldown. But his ability, when you're below 70 seconds, he gives level 5 defense up, and then when we're when the time remaining is less than 70 seconds, he gives team up defense up level 5, and then when he also gives himself level 3 attack, which is really good. An option that you guys can do with this particular team is you don't need Shanks Crew. You can actually use V2 Rayleigh 6+. V2 Rayleigh 6+ is also really, really good. He does fixed damage instead of a HP cut. He gives attack up and defense up level 5. I do find that Shanks Crew is a little bit better for this team, mainly because like Shanks Crew, I have him limit break keyed, so he has higher stats. But he is just giving a little bit more reliance as he has a quicker special cooldown, and he can actually do HP cuts. With the Kaido teams, they're very reliant on HP and defense, so HP cuts are really, really strong, but fixed damage, I can't discredit fixed damage. Fixed damage is also really, really good. The Rumble ability of Rayleigh gives level 5 HP up, but once you get below 60% HP, he gives defense up level 5 and guard level 5. This is still RNG reliant. Having him in the middle slot, as you guys see here, you have to have this happen because you do need Rayleigh to take shots. But as I mentioned, I just really preferred running the Red Haired Pirates. Wano Law, as mentioned earlier, is an absurdly strong character at taking down Kaido teams as well. The thing with Law, he does 2200 fixed damage. He removes a bunch of debuffs, mainly paralysis, on Psy teammate, which is great for himself. But his ability gives special cooldown to Psy units, which is him and Roger. But then he nerfs Driven and Powerhouse enemies by level 6 cooldown, and Guard, and Speed. So Kaido is getting double nerfed from Law and from Corazon, which is really, really good. Otherwise, Kaido just runs absolute riot. So Law is an absurd unit. Now, finally, I do have Sober Mask in the front lines, and this is a bit of a strange one, as Sober Mask is normally a bench unit, a nuking unit. The idea with Kaido is you do want to be running an 8-man team. You just need all the help you can get when you're versing Kaido. I'm not going to lie. Kaido can just do some crazy things. And as mentioned, most of these sort of fights that you do see in this video went my way, but there were a couple where I did lose as well. So this team isn't 100% success rate against Kaido. Please don't get me wrong, but at the minute, this is the best thing that I have come up with, and it does have a very high success rate. I think I've only lost like 3 fights, but this particular team is sort of designed to take on Kaido and his quick or his driven team. So it may be subject to change as we move forward. But Sober Mask is great in the front lines, mainly because his special does a bunch of damage on a very low cooldown, which is really, really strong. But his ability nerfs quick characters' defense by level 2. He gives speed and attack up to Dex units, which is great because if you are running Rayleigh, you can get this attack up, you can get this speed up, but you're always going to give it to Corazon as well. His ability nerfing quick units as well, which is really, really strong. Sets the defense to drops the defense by level 2 for Kaido and his quick allies, so that way your normal attacks can do a little bit more damage. His special just does a whole bunch of damage, but the big reason he's here is because he's got 20 cost. Next we've got Otama. Otama I found to be the best unit for the bench, mainly because this team is very fighter, free spirit reliant, especially if you are using Rayleigh as well, you get that extra bonus. But she's a great healer. She has very, very good healing on a 17-second cooldown. She can also give fighter and free spirits critical percent up for the first 30 seconds, which we don't really care about. But then she'll also give fighter and free spirit teammates level 6 cooldown, which is great for Roger and Law, so they can pop off their specials, get that fixed damage, and sort of clutch at the end. We do have Whitebeard in the back as well. Whitebeard is just an absolute god at nuking, as you guys know. His special just does a lot of damage, as well as Kolkara and Nolan being an absolute gun at sort of taking down single target enemies, as well as being on a very, very, very low cooldown, like a very, very low cooldown. They also get buffed from Law, so they're just popping off their special ridiculously fast. I didn't really want to include Kaido in this video, like on my team, but Kaido's another very, very good option. And if you guys want to go check out Rumble Scratch, I will leave a link to his channel below. We've been talking quite a lot at counters for Kaido, and he does have a little bit of a different variation to take down Kaido, but that's enough about that. Let's hop into the runs now. Well, let's hop into the fights, I should say. Alright, so for the first couple of fights, we're going to be taking on the stereotypical Driven, Roger, Kaido team that you guys did see in my initial Rumble video showcasing Kaido. So I will leave a little card at the top here for you guys. I do have 3 matches against this particular team. There might be another one, I can't really remember, but I do have 3 matches against this particular team, utilizing Shanks' crew as our main center. As mentioned in the beginning, Rayleigh does work very, very well on this particular team, and Rayleigh can actually get boosted from Otama, but Shanks just provides that little bit more reliability as it's not RNG reliant on the defensive buff. However, once you do get Rayleigh's defensive buff off, he does give HP at the start too, which is really, really nice. Once you do get Rayleigh's defensive buff off, depending on your RNG as well, it can actually function the same way. With me particularly, I do actually prefer running Shanks' crew, mainly because Shanks' crew, like I said, isn't as RNG reliant, and I do have him limit break keyed. He has a lot more stats, and he can just provide a little bit more to the team as his special gives defense as well, plus he does a lot of HP cuts. When it comes to Kaido and his particular team, there's a lot of tankiness going on, a lot of HP, a lot of defense, and trying to like bring that down is what this team is sort of built around. But without having enough damage, it doesn't matter how much you nerf the enemy. Like if you're not doing the damage to sort of back it up, it's going to catch up with you. So utilizing Shanks' HP cut works really, really well. Unfortunately, he doesn't really get a buff from Otama. Now, unfortunately, we lost Corazon right before Corazon was going to use his special there, but that way we actually get the big dog Whitebeard coming in to just blow everyone away. The RNG reliant, well, not really reliant, the RNG when it comes to Rumble can sort of work in your favor. So having like an 8-man team is always just going to be, you're sort of going to be playing with fate a little bit without sort of losing out too much. It's sort of like little risk for big gain, you know. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't, but the risk of actually running 8 men is just, it's not a hindrance at all. Otama can give a lot of cooldowns, Whitebeard can do a lot of damage, Colgara Nolan's great at single target, you also have Kaku, who's another really, really good option, and then obviously PvP Lore when PvP Lore comes out as well. So this particular team does really, really well against the driven sort of meta and the Kaido meta. It can actually tank these shots from Kaido, as you can see here, provided it's not getting hit by like Otama or something like that. But as you can see, like Roger, Lore, Whitebeard, they can all sort of tank, and Shanks crew especially, they can all like tank those big Thunderbuggers. I can't even say it. Thunderbugger. Oh wow. Okay, so we just had Lore come in there and clean up the scraps, but let's move on to another fight now. Just kind of got lost there. So here we have the driven, quick sort of team that utilizes Roger. Now, Roger's really, really good for this team because he's sort of like a rainbow unit. He gives defense, he does a lot of debuffing, he does a lot of damage as well. 2,000 fixed damage is really, really strong. The basis of the team I did showcase in my other PvP Kaido video. I will leave a link to the description. This team is basically the same team as the one that I was using, or the one that Rumble Scratch sort of came up with, and it actually works really, really well. Now, with the particular team that we have built with the Shanks crew variation, it's very, very good once it hits the 70-second mark. Unfortunately, until that point, we don't have any HP buff, and they have a lot of very, very good stats. But the beautiful thing about this particular team is we can actually tank most of the damage and most of the specials that get popped off first. As once we get all of our debuffing down from Roger, we actually got very lucky here in this situation. Roger only hit Shanks crew. But once Shanks crew pops off his special, he gives everyone level 4 defense. And then at the 70-second mark, he actually gets more defense, which is really, really strong for this particular team. And that way we don't really have to rely on RNG, as the first sort of 30 seconds, we can always survive. Once we have Roger come in, once we have Sobermask come in, once we have Lore come in with the specials, as you can see, we can actually take out most of their units. And if we can try and take out Dofi, that is going to be most of their defense. We always pretty much have to tank a shot from Kaido, as this team has a lot of HP. But once we sort of lose some of our units, we can actually get Otama to come in. Now, Otama's really, really good because we can get a heal from Corazon, but we can also get a heal from Otama. Otama gives a lot of cooldown to Lore and Roger as well. And usually that cooldown works really, really well, as we can actually get their specials back a lot quicker. And with their specials coming back a lot quicker, it means that we can actually get that fixed damage, as most of the time we've done quite a lot of damage to the enemy, which is really, really good. And then that 2,200 and that 2,000 damage can actually just finish it off. As mentioned in the beginning, we sort of always have to be running an 8-man team when we're coming up against Kaido, as Kaido's just so damn tanky, and he does so much damage. And as you can see here, this fight looks like it's pretty much over. We probably won't get the win, but because we have fixed damage with both Roger and with Lore, we can actually clutch it at the end here just by maxing their specials, having the 2,000 damage from Roger and the 2,200, and then Colgara Nolan's just a little bit nice in the back there, just to allow him to, well, them I should say, to do lots of damage when they pop their specials off, and they pop their specials off very quickly. So that was the driven Roger slasher team. Let's move on to the next fight now. Alright, so moving on to the next fight, we have another Roger-driven, quick meta slasher Kaido team. This team is actually really janky, the one that is floating around at the moment. It does synergize very, very well, but it just has such an unusual array of characters on the particular team. So with Tessero, they can get a lot of defense with the special. Tessero's special is very underrated because he's always going to give himself defense, plus he's always doing fixed damage, which fixed damage is always nice, especially with like the hindrance of debuffing and stuff like that. You could have like minus 20 attack but still be doing the same amount of damage, which is really, really good. The thing when you come up against this team is you're always going to get the Bellamy special popping off. And unfortunately for this particular team, we do have Sobermask in the front lines, which is very unusual because he is normally a nuking unit. But because he actually debuffs quick units by level 2 defense down, he's actually pretty good to be putting in the front line. Ideally, we want to be running an 8-man team, so having him in the front lines just helps out by debuffing Kaido that little bit and just makes like doing damage with either Sobermask or our normal attacks just a little bit better against Kaido, as Kaido just has so much HP and so much defense. As you can see here, we lost Corazon very, very early. Corazon is like our main debuffer for Kaido, as he can actually give us a lot of defense, a lot of healing, and he actually nerfs Driven Powerhouse. But the beautiful thing about having Otama on the first slot of the bench means that Otama is going to come in normally when we lose our first unit. and we actually just going to pop off Otama's heal straight away. So as you can see, we do have Otama's special ready. Otama's going to heal us back up. She's going to give a lot of HP to one of our units, as well as giving us a lot of cooldown. As mentioned in the previous fight, Otama coming in this sort of like in this late game just allows us to get Roger and Law's special quite quickly. Now, she can also give Corazon and Sobermask their cooldown as well, as she does fighters and free spirits. The only character that's not on this particular team is like Shank's crew, in the front lines anyway. We do have Whitebeard in the back as well. As you can see, Whitebeard's great at just coming in and doing an absolute clean sweep. And if Whitebeard can come in, hit a bunch of units, get a little bit of good RNG there, usually you're going to see success running through the rest of the fight. With these fights, they do tend to go the length. They normally end around that sort of 20-second mark, which is a little bit different to what we're used to with the attacking teams, seeing stuff like the slashes finishing the match within 30 seconds and whatnot. But as you can see, this team does very, very well against the meta, in quotation marks, team. But let's check out some other fights. Alright, so moving on to another fight now, versing the same sort of setup. We are utilizing Rayleigh this time instead of Shank's crew. So as mentioned in like the first fight, Rayleigh's a really, really good option instead of Shank's crew, but when it comes to Rayleigh, he's a little bit more RNG reliant, as you do want him in that middle slot, so he is tanking damage. The idea of Rayleigh is you want to get him below that 60% mark, so he starts giving the guard, he starts giving the extra defense. Rayleigh's special is quite nice because he does fixed damage. I do find Shank's crew to be a little bit better, mainly because the HP cut can provide so much more with the amount of HP that this particular team does have. This driven slasher Kaido team is just so tanky, and they're very reliant on dropping our defense, doing a lot of damage that way, and sort of tanking shots. So having the HP cut of Rayleigh is actually really, really nice. However, we do have a lot of healers on this particular team, namely Corazon and Otama, which means that we can actually just sort of get Rayleigh's special very consistently. As once Rayleigh does drop below that 60%, he's going to be giving a lot to our particular team. However, if we do get nerfed a lot, Rayleigh can find himself in a really bad position and actually just get absolutely decimated super, super early. This was a pretty good showing for Rayleigh though. We did take a lot of damage there. We didn't really get his passive to sort of pop off really at all, mainly because we had Corazon here. Corazon can just heal everyone back up. Corazon can also give level 7 defense as well. It's another real reason why Rayleigh isn't super prevalent. Once Rayleigh's special does pop off though, Rayleigh's super, super nice. 5 extra defense, giving us some guard. Once we drop below that 60%, which we're probably going to do here. Nope, we still don't manage to drop there. So this was just a really good fight for us. RNG was just in our favor significantly. And as you can see, Rayleigh can do very, very well. I don't think this was like a very good, a great showing, as RNG sort of helped us a lot, but it was a pretty good showing in sort of showing that Rayleigh is a good option instead of Shank's crew. Alright, so the next fight we're coming up against sort of a mono quick team. Now this mono quick team isn't like crash hot, but it is one of the mono quick teams that has been floating around. Carrot's very, very good. Smoker is actually quite decent in Rumble. Sugar's not too bad. V3 Alkaji is pretty prevalent on most mono quick teams. Stussie's a very, very good Rumble unit. And then the other culprits are stuff like the free-to-play Bellamy, as well as the free-to-play Invinkov. Just Quick has a lot going for it right now, and it's just going to get stronger and stronger with the release of Queen that is coming up literally tomorrow on Global, as well as characters like Ace vs Kainu, Magellan, the Quick Super type Luffy. There's just a lot that is coming, and there's a lot of really good Rumble units that will be coming out. So hopefully this particular team and these sort of like ideas, mainly Corazon and Law, they're the two big ones. But hopefully this team gives you guys an idea how you can take down this particular team, so you're not sort of drowning in the newer meta, especially if you don't summon for these quick units, or you are waiting for like an Ace vs Kainu. You're not going to summon for Kaido because he should be on that banner. Then which I do understand why people have skipped. But hopefully this sort of gives you guys an idea of how we can sort of take this down. Now, this particular team, I actually hadn't included Otama, so this is another sort of variation that you guys can actually run. I did have Colgar and Nolan in the front there, as Colgar and Nolan are really, really good, coming in with their special no matter what, no matter who dies, and then that way you can actually just get them popping off, doing a lot of damage to single targets, and actually just, if you get good RNG, just taking out some of those really big hitters, or some of those characters that have a lot of very good defense. Unfortunately for us, we actually hit Stussie with our Colgar and Nolan special, which is what it is. Like, it's not really that big of a deal. We could have hit anyone there, and we probably would have got the kill. But as you can see, the team was pretty much already done and dusted by the time we got to this point. So, let's move on. Let's move on to another fight now, because this one's basically done. So for the final fight of the video, we are taking on a little bit of a different sort of driven quick team. As mentioned with the sort of quick meta, V3 Aokiji is just a really, really good option, especially on defensive teams, because you can just like flirt with RNG, and if you get that special bind off, it actually helps out quite a lot. With this particular team though, there's not a lot of characters that can be special binded though, and with like Shank's crew and Roger especially, we don't really have to worry about it too much. So whenever we do see like an Aokiji, I sort of just froth on it. I don't even really care about the RNG. I'm always going to be taking it on, as I never really have been in a situation, unlike Halloween lore, I've never really been in a situation where that special seal has really done too much to me, as well as the action bind. As you can see, like, he went to special bind Shank's crew. Shank's crew is just like, nah, sorry man, or not today. And then we're just in a really, really good position. With Corazon giving so much defense, something that I haven't really touched on is Corazon's special is so strong. The 7 defense as well as the heal is incredibly strong. He does nerf quick units as well, so Kaido does get hindered significantly. You guys are seeing Kaido pop off all these specials and us just tank them like an absolute champ. Kaido normally just wipes, like absolutely board wipes when it comes to this sort of situation, but because of lore, because of Corazon, we can actually tank those specials fairly easily. And Kaido doesn't really have too much of a chance to actually wipe us without then being able to take all the damage that we can retrospectively throw back at him. With our 8-man bench, having Kaku, having Whitebeard, having Kalgara Nolan is really, really strong. But as mentioned, I do think Otama is the best bench unit for this particular team, as Otama can just give a lot of cooldowns, and then you can rely on your fixed damage, as well as Roger doing a lot of nerfing, and with Law doing a lot of extra damage with his 2200. Kalgara Nolan is a really, really good option on the bench as well. I would highly recommend having them over someone like Kaku, mainly because they can come in, and if you get the right RNG, and not even the right RNG really, like if everyone's quite low HP, then Roger comes in, does a bit of a wipe, and then Kalgara Nolan brings an enemy with a lot of HP down to that level to allow Roger to wipe them. It does work incredibly, incredibly well. But that's going to wrap up today's video. I hope you guys are enjoying the PvP content. If you are, make sure you go in there and belt the like button for me. And if you are new to my channel, hit the big red subscribe button too. But guys, wherever you are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Lights!